Morning. How are we doing? My name is Jon Reiner. I'm one of the teaching pastors here at First Free. Hello to all of you here in this space. Hello to all of you tuning in online. And hello to my friend in the gym, Pastor Fur. I just want to say hi to him. Inside information, today is Pastor Fur's birthday. Yes. So, before you leave, go to First Free Central and tell him hello. Oh, actually, he's in the back corner. Hello, my friend. It is such an honor for us to have Fur here, not just because he's our friendly neighborhood connections pastor in our video announcements, but like there are pastors, and then there are pastors. And Fur is just an incredible pastor. He has an incredible heart for the Lord. I have the honor every single week of sitting down and doing our Soul Food podcast with him, which is pure nonsense, but I get to spend time with him every day, every week. So happy birthday to Fur. Hello to all of you. If you are joining us for the first time, we've been going through a series in what's called the Sermon on the Mount. And the Sermon on the Mount is found in Matthew 5, 6, and 7, and it's this teaching or collections of teachings from Jesus, this concise explanation of what does it mean to be a disciple, a student, a follower of Jesus. What does it mean to do this Jesus Christian thing? And we started it back in August, and in August we started with Matthew chapter 5, and it starts off with these what are called the Beatitudes, the blessed. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are the merciful, so on and so forth. If you haven't been with us, you can go to our website, firstfree.org, and go through all the archives. You can catch up if you want to. One guy came to my office recently and said he watched like 7 episodes in a row, 7 sermons in a row. Episodes, what is this, Netflix culture? 7 sermons in a row, and I was like, wow. And he loved it. I was like, that's a long day, but he loved it, right? So you can catch up. But it starts with these Beatitudes. Blessed are. Okay, and then we went into several weeks of what Jesus just kind of calls out these areas of sin, these things to be aware of, these temptations, these vices, areas of sin in our lives, and he really tries to get to the root of it, the heart of it. And if you were with us for those weeks, they were good, but also challenging. It was difficult sometimes to hear some of those, but good because we knew we need to grow in them. And most recently, we've been starting now kind of the second half of the Sermon on the Mount and looking at these spiritual formations, spiritual disciplines, prayer, fasting, these things that Jesus says actually helps us in our growth in our spiritual life. But you may not have noticed that we actually skipped a few verses there. I know. What? Yeah, we tricked you. We skipped a few verses there back in Matthew chapter 5, right after the Beatitudes. There's 4 or 5 verses. And in those 4 or 5 verses, Jesus actually gives the disciples 2 kind of picture lessons, 2 image identities. He says, you are these 2 things. And if you look at the Sermon on the Mount as a whole, it's almost as if these Beatitudes, if I live these things out, the result will be these things that Jesus calls us. And then I have to be on guard against these sins. And I can use these formations to grow my spirit so that I can be the thing that Jesus is calling us to be in these verses. So we're going to go back to those. If you have your Bible or an app, we're going to go to Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 to 16. That's where we're going. And we're going to talk about a lot today. Maybe more than we need to, but that's just how it's fun, right? It's like an adventure we're going to go on. So we're going to talk today about salt. And we're going to talk about light. And we're going to talk about rotting meat. And we're going to talk about darkness. And we're going to talk about ancient Hebrew poetry. And we're going to talk about ancient Hebrew consciousness. We're going to talk about why there is a ball of raw hamburger on my table right now. We're going to talk about what it means to tap into something. We're going to talk about the word world. And we're going to see exactly what it is that Jesus called us to be. Yeah, it's a lot. So if you're taking notes, good luck and Godspeed. Yeah, so, but just in case we get lost along the way, this is what I want us to take away from this morning. Is that if we read the Bible, if we read these verses and we read the Bible in general, we get the impression that this world that we live in isn't perfect. Yeah, I know, spoiler. this world is filled with imperfection. It's filled with pain. It's filled with loss. It's filled with discouragement. And it's been that way for a very long time. But we also get the impression that there's this God, and this God actually cares about that world and everything about that world. Cares about the people of that world, the nature of the world. He cares about this thing that he created, and he feels the pain and the brokenness and the despair. And he actually has a heart to address it. He actually has a desire to do something about it. But the result, the means of addressing those imperfections and injustices and discouragements and hopelessness, his plan might actually be closer to home than we realize. It might have more to do with us than we think. I'm going to read the verses and then we'll pray and get started. Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 to 16. Jesus says this: "You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. Number 2, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Let's pray. God, I thank you for your word, and I thank you for this moment. We had a service last night. We had an earlier service this morning. I thank you for this service. I thank you for this group of people, the people who are here, the people who are tuning online, whatever space or medium they're using. I thank you for this time, and I pray that this time would be a holy moment where we experience you. And I pray specifically for anyone who is coming into this space feeling hurt, grieving, feeling loss, feeling a lack of hope, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like they don't have any sort of guiding principle whatsoever, feeling like they're just stuck and alone. And I pray that you would encounter them this morning in a profound way, that they would leave here with hope, leave here with light, leave here with a sense that they're seen and valued. Show us what it means to be a community of disciples. In your name, amen. You are salt and you are light. Now, to us, we hear that. We hear two things. We hear salt, we hear light. Salt, the thing that we kind of put on our food for seasoning maybe, or the thing that we put on our sidewalks in the winter. We think salt. Some of you are like, let's not go there. But that's what we think of. We think salt. We think light. We think of light bulbs. We think this. We think that there's light. But when Jesus is saying this in Matthew chapter 5 to this first century group of disciples, he's not saying it to a 21st century American audience. He's saying it to a first century Jewish, ethnic, cultural, religious, Jewish, Israelite, Hebrew audience. They wouldn't understand it the way that we do. And so these words that he uses would not be lost on them. There's a significance that goes way far back in these word images. So let's go all the way back. Let's go all the way back to Genesis. John, why can't you just preach on the thing? Why do you always have to take us on a journey? Because adventures are fun. So go all the way back to the first book of the Bible, the book of Genesis. And the very beginning of the book of Genesis starts with this ancient Hebrew poem, Genesis chapter 1. Now, before you get mad, because people get mad when I say that. People look at me and they get mad when I say ancient Hebrew poem, when I say Genesis chapter 1. Okay, just because it's poetry doesn't mean it can't also be true. Okay? But it's most definitely written in a poetic form, okay? So hopefully that avoids any awkward hallway conversations that you're planning on having with me. So first century, so we have Genesis chapter 1, this ancient Hebrew poem. And in the Hebrew consciousness, if you go all the way back there, words are not just words are pictures, especially when it's in a poem. And so Genesis chapter 1, this poem starts off like this: "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was formless, It had no form, no structure, no parameters, no border. It had none of the known dimensions that we think of at this time. It didn't really have a true definition. It was lacking its own identity and substance. The world was formless and void. There was something missing. A void, a space, a cosmos, some sort of vacuum where something isn't quite right because it hasn't actually been filled yet. It was formless, it was void. Some translations say chaotic. Formless, void, chaotic, and darkness covered the surface of the deep. And the Spirit of God hovered over the waters, this word darkness. We think dark and we simply think we turn the lights off. But in the Hebrew consciousness, in this ancient Hebrew culture, darkness was much more than just the lights off. Darkness was almost this space, this thing that could be felt. Darkness was this heaviness. The darkness was like a threshold of a door into a room that you don't want to go into because you may not make it out again. That's darkness. When we're in a dark room, we get a little afraid, we get a little nervous. We don't know where we are. We don't know where we just came from. We don't know where we're going. We have no bearings. We're in the darkness. Darkness in the Hebrew consciousness was a sense of hopelessness, despair, heaviness. It wasn't just the lights are out. And I want us to sit in this for a second because I think it's going to help us understand what we're going to talk about later on. We're going to awkwardly sit in this idea of Hebrew darkness because I think we understand it more than we realize. Take the last couple years. If someone were to have asked you, and maybe you said this, maybe you heard someone else say this, but someone asked in the midst of everything that has happened over the last couple years, how are you doing? Oh, things just seem dark. It seems like there lacks some sort of definition or structure. Things are always changing. It seems chaotic. It seems like there isn't any true order to what's going on. I can't make heads or tails or sense of anything that's going on. Things just seem heavy and dark. Yeah. What are we saying? Are we saying that in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, there was also a worldwide power outage? No, we're tapping into this idea of darkness. What are we trying to explain? I can't quite define it, but something seems dark. Sit in it, sit in it, sit in it, sit in it. Maybe you experienced loss over the last few years. A lot of people have, right? A lot of people have. And maybe that loss was directly connected to the pandemic. Maybe it was connected to another disease that still exists even in the midst of a pandemic. Maybe you lost someone to old age, to COVID, cancer. You lost someone to suicide or overdose. And someone asks you, how are you doing? There just seems to be this void, this hole. Something isn't quite there. Something just feels dark. This person in my life, this friend, this family member, we live life together, we talk together, we love together, we shared things together, and now they're not there, and there's this void, this hole, and it seems chaotic without them here, and it seems like something's missing without them here, and it's just dark. Yeah, we get that, don't we? The light didn't go off. We're tapping into something. We can't quite explain it, but it seems like a space and a feeling and a time that I'm experiencing, and you realize you're not the only one. Other people have experienced it too. Sit here. Maybe the last few years have been difficult relationally. Maybe friends that you've had for years, decades. But because of heightened cultural topics, because of differences of opinion, all of a sudden what you found from those friends that you've had for years and years were shut doors, cut ties, and burned bridges. Someone asks, how you doing? There's a void. Something's not there. It just seems dark. Maybe the last few years have been more difficult on your marriage. We get caught up in the busyness of life with kids, with work, with other obligations, with hobbies, with other connections, and then all of a sudden, in the last couple of years, you're forced to just be at home all the time. You got nowhere else to go. It's been a long time since you spent this much time with your spouse and you realize maybe things aren't okay. Maybe this isn't what I thought it was. Maybe we're not as good as I thought we were. Maybe he leaves. Maybe she leaves. How are you doing? It just seems dark. It seems dark. Maybe you spent your whole life with this career aim. You went to school for it. You trained for it. You did your internships for it. You got the job that you wanted, and you're loving that job, and a choice is presented before you, and you make one decision, and all of a sudden it means you don't have that job anymore. How are you doing? I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to be when I'm not this thing. This is the only thing I ever thought I was going to do with my life, and now this thing seems to be gone, and what am I supposed to do? It just seems dark. It seems heavy. It seems like something's missing. We get this, don't we? We understand this idea of darkness. And so, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was formless and void and chaotic, and darkness covered the surface of the deep. And then God speaks. The first time God shows up on the scene in this biblical story, right? And God says, "Let there now be no more chaos." Nope. Now let there be no more darkness. Now let there be no more unsettledness. Now let there be no more lacking. He doesn't take something out of the story. Hear me. What does he say? Let there be light. How often is our hope that God just removes things? God doesn't say, okay, now let there be no more chaos, no more darkness, no more hopelessness. Instead of removing something from the story, hear me out here, instead of removing something from the story, he speaks something into the story. He doesn't take away the chaos. He doesn't take away the formlessness. He doesn't take away the void. He adds things into it. He adds light into it. In the Hebrew consciousness, light was not just light, right? In their world, this was not a reality, right? All these lights, the stage lights, Christmas tree lights, although I kind of like to think that those are eternal. This wasn't real for them. Electricity wasn't real for them, right? Their understanding of light was the sun comes up and it's light out, and then the sun goes down and there's a little bit of light from the moon and the stars, but that's it. Maybe we have a fire. That's it. And so it was much more spiritual than we give light credit for. And so for them, the idea of light in the Hebrew consciousness was almost this bridge between God and people, the spiritual and the physical, the supernatural and the natural. There was this thing that said, I can't control that thing. I don't have the science to define what that thing is. But every day it comes out and it gives us life and it gives us light, and I can see where I'm going, and there's a greater sense of hope. And even in the darkest of night, that thing comes back again, and I don't feel alone now. I can see where I am and where other people are. It was something different. And so God doesn't remove something from the story. He doesn't say, now there's no more chaos, there's no more hopelessness. Instead, he says, now let there be light. Now you're not alone. Now there's hope. Now there's a way forward. Now there's definition and structure. He doesn't remove something from the story, he adds something into it. Remember that, because we're going to come back to it. And this is the first of many instances where God uses this, the Bible uses this light and darkness story motif, these images. If you fast forward to the book of Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, God speaking through Isaiah says, "O Israel, you are to be a people set apart in righteousness, like light in a dark world." Light and dark. Whenever there was an overwhelming sense of darkness, God spoke light into it. Last one, in the Gospel of John and in 1 John, Jesus himself, Jesus Christ, is defined as this light of the world. A light that came into the darkness, but the darkness did not recognize it. It came into the darkness, but the darkness could not overcome it. So, I can't help but believe that when Jesus looks at his disciples, it says, "You are the light of the world." He's not calling them light bulbs. He is tapping into this ancient comparison of light and dark, going all the way back to the beginning of the story. You are this. This is who you are. But how do we get there? These verses come right at the end of what are called those Beatitudes, Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 through 12. And so for the sake of not trying to be redundant, I'm going to read through those in case some of us have forgotten them or we'd never heard them before. So Jesus says this in Matthew chapter 5, verse 3. These are the, think of these if you're taking notes, these are like the essential characteristics of a follower of Jesus. This is what should define our character. Okay, so Jesus says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. And blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. And blessed are the merciful, for they'll be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in that same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. These Beatitudes, these 12 verses, are to be the essential characteristics of how we live our lives as followers of Jesus. And if we do, we become like salt and light to this world. By living those things out, we become salt and light. Salt and light, two pictures, two images. I think what God is doing is that he's actually giving us, he's laying out these identities and dichotomies. Those are fun things to say, isn't it? Like, John, I didn't come here for a philosophy 101 class. I just came here for a sermon. Identities and dichotomies. And identity is the thing that it defines you. It's who you are. It's your identity. It's what makes you you, right? This dichotomy is this comparison and contrast, this clash between two ideas. It's this comparison idea. So you have identities and dichotomies. Simply put, when Jesus says you are the salt of the earth and you are the light of the world, we can hear that and just think he's talking about what it means to be a disciple. But really, Jesus is saying just as much about the identity and condition of the world as he is about the identity and function of the disciple. Just pause for a second. Jesus is saying just as much about the identity and condition of the world as he is about the identity and function of the disciple. If someone says, John, you're a dad, they're calling me a dad, but it also implies that I have kids, right? By saying one thing, you're kind of also saying something else. If someone says that's the boss, you're also assuming that there are employees under him because he's the boss of them. By saying one thing, you're saying something else. By saying you are the salt of the earth, he's saying something about the condition of the earth. Following? If he says you are light, he's saying something about the condition of the world. So let's run through those. Salt and rotting meat. Why not? Matthew 5:13, you are the salt of the earth, salt and rotting meat. Okay, so let's talk about why there's a ball of hamburger on my table. Anyone been distracted by that? Yeah, a couple people. Yeah, there's enough sickness going around, John. You can keep your raw meat at home. Thank you very much. Yeah. See, usually, the table I have a laptop and I have, my mug with some sort of tea in it. But this is new. I don't often have raw meat sitting on the table. If you go to the store, you leave here, you go to the store, and you buy hamburger. I wish it came in balls like this, but it doesn't. You go to the store and you buy hamburger. You take it home and you're probably going to put it in the refrigerator or the freezer. Yeah, you're probably going to put it in the refrigerator or the freezer. Why do you do that? To preserve it. To preserve it, to keep it good, right? Well, in the ancient world, you don't have a refrigerator or a freezer. Yeah. You don't have electricity in the ancient world. But in the Middle East, in this Galilee, Mediterranean, Dead Sea area, you got a lot of salt. And so they had a lot of different uses for salt. One of the main purposes of salt was to preserve. You use salt to preserve things. So if you had a hunk of meat in the ancient world, you couldn't put it in the refrigerator or freezer, you would actually pack it in salt to try to preserve it. Do you preserve something that's in and of itself fine? You don't, do you? You don't preserve something that's going to be fine in and of itself. You preserve something, you preserve a piece of meat that's going to rot. Yeah, you preserve a piece of meat that's going to decay. And even with our best of intentions, I can put this hamburger in the refrigerator, I can put it in the freezer. But from the moment I buy it, from the moment they butcher it, from the moment they process it, this is rotting and decaying, isn't it? It may not smell like it may not look like it, but from the very beginning of it being processed, that piece of meat is rotting and decaying. It is what it is. It's not doing anything wrong. It's not going against its nature. Its nature is to rot and decay. I put it in the refrigerator, I put it in the freezer, I pack it with salt to try to do everything I can to preserve it for as long as I can, but its natural course of action is to decay and rot. Are you with me? Yeah. Jesus says, you are the salt of the earth. He's saying something about the world. It's almost as if he's saying that there is a decay and a rot in this world. And maybe it's been there for a really long time. So if you ever find yourself, and maybe in the last couple of years, you said things like, oh my gosh, the world is so messed up. The world is so dark. The world is so fallen. The world is so rotten. The world is so... Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's been that way for a while. It's so dark. It's so this. It's so that. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's been that way for a while. Yeah. By saying that we are the salt of the earth, he's actually saying that there's a condition of the world that needs to be addressed. It is rotting and it is decaying. Yeah, and it's been that way for a while. This in and of itself is not going to get better. But we try to preserve its goodness for as long as possible. Yeah. You are salt and there's rotting meat. Then he says, you are the light of the world. This imagery is not lost on that audience. This world seems so dark. It seems so hopeless. It seems so chaotic. It seems so unstructured. It seems like it's not going anywhere. It seems so evil. It seems so unjust. It seems, yeah, it is. It's been that way for a while. It didn't just start in 2020. It didn't just start going bad recently. It's going bad for a while. Yeah. But you are the light. You are the salt, and you are the light. There is salt and rotting meat. There is light, and there is darkness. And Jesus' point is that there is the disciple, and there is the world. Salt is meant to preserve it. Salt was also used in wounds, right? We have this phrase, like salt in a wound. Yeah. Because in the ancient world, you would actually pack a wound with salt until you could find another way of bringing greater healing or addressing it. You would stuff it with salt to help preserve it, to help bring some sort of healing or to hold off any of the rot or decay of that wound for as long as you possibly can. You are salt and you are light. You are meant to be salt in a world that is decaying and rotting, and to hold on and defend as much goodness as possible. You are meant to be light that shines in a darkness. You are the disciple in the world, and at this point I hit this wall and have to ask myself, how well am I doing that? Am I holding back darkness in this world? Or am I contributing to it? Am I holding back the rot and decay of the earth, or am I contributing? Am I holding it back, or am I being held back somehow? Is my influence and my input and my ability to bring goodness and change and the light of God into this world, is it holding back the darkness? Am I doing what I can, like salt, to preserve goodness rather than having it decay? Or am I contributing to the decay? Am I holding back the darkness, speaking into the darkness of hopelessness and chaos and disorder? Am I bringing light into darkness, or am I being held back? Because Jesus goes on to say this in Matthew 5:13. But if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. Now, when you just think of that as like a grain of salt, it's okay. We can kind of get rid of that mental image. It's not that personal. But when he says you are the salt of the earth, and he says if you've lost your saltiness, what good are you other than to be trampled underfoot? It's a little more personal, isn't it? If salt loses its saltiness. Now, if you're some sort of scientist or something, you might think to yourself, well, salt doesn't lose its saltiness. Salt is always just salt. Right? Unless it's diluted or mixed with something, salt usually just stays salt. But that's not the word picture here. If salt loses its saltiness, if I pack this meat with a bunch of salt and the salt is no longer preserving it, it's no longer doing its job of holding back the decay and the rot, then what good is that salt? It's not serving its purpose. And you might as well throw it out. If the disciple is meant to be salt in this world and I'm not doing it, Jesus is saying, you're not living out your nature as a disciple. You're not living out your nature as a Christian. You're not living out your nature as a follower of Jesus. If you're contributing more to the decay than you are the preservation of good, then you're not living it out. And to be honest, what good are we doing? Jeez, Jesus. That seems harsh. Or he says, put it this way. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Now, in this ancient world, again, you don't have these 24-hour cities, so you have these cities that were sometimes built on a hill, and if they had their lanterns on, they had their torches on, you could potentially see them. So if a traveler is lost at night, someone's going on a multi-day journey, they don't quite get to the city that they need to, and now all of a sudden they're in the dark, they're looking for points of reference. Oftentimes, these cities on a hill were points of reference. Oh, I know that city is north, that city is east, that city is west, whatever it might be. I can see something. I'm not just wandering in the dark. I'm not alone. I have a point of reference. It's this sense of security, of safety, of I know where I'm going now. A town on a hill can't be hidden. If it's up there and it's shining its light, it can be seen regardless. A town on a hill can't be hidden. Neither do people take a lamp and put it under a bowl. What a weird thought. You don't light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, you put it on its stand and it gives light to everyone in the house. It doesn't say that you turn off the light. It just says you have a light that's light. It's lit, but it's covered. Think about if you have the world's brightest, strongest flashlight. You wrap it up in a sweatshirt, you put it in a basket, and you throw it in your closet. But it's on. It's on, though. It's on. Right? You've got the brightest flashlight in the world, but you turned it on, you wrapped it in a sweatshirt, put it in a basket, threw it in the closet. My girls do this all the time. Yeah, they love flashlights. It's like this fun game for us. We have flashlights. We go on flashlight walks. They love flashlights. They walk around with flashlights. And then they turn on their flashlight, throw it in the closet. And then at night they're scared because it's dark. Well, where's your flashlight? I don't know. Yeah, it's in the closet. It's in the closet. You know what I call the world's brightest flashlight wrapped in a sweatshirt, put in a basket, and throw in the closet? A drain of batteries. A drain of batteries. Jesus is saying, look, you're the salt of the earth, but if you lose your saltiness, if you're no longer living out that role, then you're not doing the nature of a disciple. What are you doing? And if you're a light, you've read the Bible frontwards and backwards over and over and over again, and you can quote verses like this, and this, and you know all the answers to all the theological questions, and you have all of your doctrinal ducks in a row. And you have a perfect church attendance, and you have this and you have that, right? You go to Bible school, you go to seminary, you do all the things. But if we bring out those beatitudes, we bring out those essential characteristics, there's nowhere to be found. Your character doesn't line up with your knowledge. It's like a light that you wrap up in a sweatshirt, put in a basket, and throw it in the closet. What good is it? if I'm not holding back the darkness with that light, then what am I doing? And what I see happen so often is we get frustrated with this idea. We get frustrated because it seems really, really hard, and it is. We read those Beatitudes, we read these essential characteristics, we read the Jesus teachings and what he asks us to do as followers of him, and it seems really, really, really hard. Really, really hard. And sometimes we have our own season of that darkness and that hopelessness and that frustration and that chaos. And over the years, I've heard two responses to how people think we should engage in the world. We start to think that God doesn't care about the world anymore. We start to think that God doesn't actually care about the people out there anymore. He doesn't care about, we start to have this idea, and this is one of the phrases I've heard. Maybe you've used it, maybe you've heard it, right? So one of people's reactions is this: just let it burn. It's all going to burn anyways. It's all going to burn. Like we're talking about the world. Like the world, so what we're saying is, theologically speaking, I think the whole world is just going to burn one day. And so what difference does it make? Just let it all burn. It's gone too far. It's too rotten. It's too decayed. Just let it go. Just let it all burn. And we, how many of you, come on, you don't have to raise your hand because that'd be silly. But in the last couple years, it's this prayer that people have prayed: Lord, take me now. Lord, just take me now. Just end it all now. Just rapture me up right now. Just rapture me up now, because I'm done with this world. It's done. It's too far gone. It's too dark. It's too broken. It's too decayed. It's too rotten. Just take me up now. Rapture me now. Come now. Let it be over now. It's all just going to burn. In casual conversation, I can't tell you how many people do. Oh man, it's all going to burn anyways. What difference does it make? It's all going to burn. Lord, just come now. Yeah. It's too dark. Just come now. Take something out of the story. We wish God would just take this virus out of the story. Just take the media out of the story. Just take this out of the story. Take masks out of the story. Take this out of the story. Would you just remove something, right? Would you just take something out of the story? But that hasn't been the history of God. Usually God doesn't take things out of the story. He puts something into the story. In the beginning, he said, let there be light. In the nation of Israel, he said, you will be light in the darkness. He sends Christ as a light into the world. And in the Sermon on the Mount, when we say, Lord, just take us now. It's all going to burn. What difference does it make? It's too dark. Come now. He says, let there be light. Let there be you. You are the light of the world. It just seems too dark. It seems too heavy. God, you have to do something. You have to take something out of the story. You have to take me out of the story. It's too dark. Well, you're going to do something about the darkness. Yeah, let there be light. You are the light of the world. Let there be you. You are my current plan. Let there be you. Or sometimes we have this perspective of, well, it's all just getting better. I love the optimism, I really do. And maybe it's because I'm just like a classic pessimist. I don't always see the world getting better. I'm not saying it's all terrible, but I don't always see it all getting better. Just like I don't look at this piece of hamburger and say, no, it's getting better. It's getting better. Yeah. Just give it a little bit. Just give it a couple days. We'll get through this rough spot, and it's all getting, the meat's getting better. I don't even know what that means, really. Like it's a cow again? Piece of meat doesn't get better. It's currently in a state of rot and decay, and it will be, and continue to be. By saying something about us, he's saying something about the world. You are the salt of the earth. Maybe it's not getting better. Maybe if the darkness keeps getting worse and the decay keeps getting worse and the rot keeps getting worse, the answer isn't end it all now, take me out now, let it all burn. Maybe in response to darkness rising and decay rising and rot rising, so should light and salt rise. Because if I look at the entirety of the biblical story, I don't see a God that's given up on the world or people, whether they obey him or not, love him or not, listen to him or not. The systems and structures of this world, I don't think he's always given up on. Instead, I think of that classic verse, like the first verse that any Christian memorizes. It's John 3:16. It seems so simple and yet so profound. For God so loved the world. Like he loves it. And the people in it. The ones who love him, the people who don't. He loves the ones who act justly and the ones who act in injustice. He loves the world. And he loved the world so much that he gave himself. He laid down himself. He laid down his own life for the sake of the goodness of this world. That was his response as well. So how can I look at the world and yes, see darkness, and yes, see brokenness, and yes, see grief, and yes, see loss, and yes, see chaos, and yes, see something that doesn't really seem like it has its own structure or order or it's going anywhere? How can I look at the world that he laid down his life for, and yet my response is, just take me out of here. Rapture me out. Let it all burn. If he laid down his life for it, and it seems dark, and it seems corrupt, and it seems like it's rotting, and it seems like it's hopeless. Just like he did from the very beginning, he said, let there be light, but he also said, you are the light of the world. So maybe he said, let there be you in this world. Let there be you. And maybe that world, the idea of like, oh great, I was already feeling a little discouraged, and now you're saying I have to go save the world. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, just put it to my list of anxiety. That's awesome. Cool. Thank you very much, John. This is great encouragement. Maybe instead of thinking of it for a moment, rather than thinking of it as being the salt and light of the entire world, what if for a moment we brought it in and thought about that word world? What if we started with just trying to be salt and light in your world? And not just being overwhelmed by like the world, right? But your world. What is your world? Maybe you're a single young adult, a single adult. Your world is maybe college, you're a student. Maybe your world is your workplace, your friends. Maybe your immediate family. Maybe that's your world. Maybe your world is you. It's your own thought life. It's what you do on your free time. It's what's engaged in your mind and in your heart. That's your world. Okay. How do I become salt and light there? Maybe you're married and your world is your marriage. Are you salt and light there? Yeah. Maybe you're a parent, family. Your world might not be the nations of the world right now. Maybe your world is your home and your kids. Am I salt and light there? Maybe you have a job. Maybe you're a business owner. Your workplace is a part of your world. So let's bring it in. And if salt and light are directly connected to these characteristics of the Beatitudes, the essential qualities, then let's break these down real quick. I'm going to try to do it quick because we're going on this journey together. But let's break them apart and let's bring it into our world. Let these things hit your world, not just the big world. If it's the big world, we can easily just, that's too much, I can't think about that. Bring it into your world, okay? So Jesus says this, blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the ones who don't claim to know everything there is to know about everything. Blessed are those who know they still have a need for God. Blessed are the ones who still ask questions and search out God. Blessed are the poor in spirit, right? But for every blessed are, I'm giving a beware of, because that's just fun. Tables, diagrams. Blessed are the poor in spirit, beware of spiritual arrogance. Beware of spiritual arrogance. That attitude that creeps in that says, I know the answer to every single question. I know all the right things. I don't really need to grow because I already know everything. I know everything there is to know about everything. And you're happy to lecture everyone and call out everyone else's beliefs, heresy, or you're a heretic, or this is heresy, or there's a heretic. Beware of spiritual arrogance in your heart. Never stop seeking out your need for God. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Beware of spiritual arrogance. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed is the individual who is able to recognize their own brokenness and their own areas of sin and how it's impacting other people. Blessed is the one who cries over that. This area of my life is difficult and I've struggled with it for a while and I can't stand it. I hate it. God, would you come and meet me and help me grow out of this? Blessed are the ones who mourn over their sin, but beware of being egocentric in your world and unrepentant. That's not holding back darkness, that's adding to the darkness. Yeah. That's not holding back rot and decay in your world, that's adding to the rot and decay. Beware of being the person who is so self-centered and unrepentant that they can't see their own faults even when they're standing right in front of them. Beware of being the person that everything that's wrong in your life and in your relationships and in your world is always someone else's fault. Beware of being that person. Because that's not salt and light. That's rot and decay. Yeah. Beware of being that person. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are the ones who have that strength under control. They don't always have to barge in. It's Jesus, right? It's that picture of Jesus, the divine one and yet in human form, right? Still living in meekness. Yeah, blessed are the meek, but beware of being domineering and controlling in your world. Beware of being that person that always has to have their way all the time, and you're willing to put other people down, run over other people, or be manipulative to get your way. That's not salt and light. That's not salt and light, that's decay. Beware of being the person that's domineering and controlling. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed is the person who truly has a hunger and a thirst for more of God in their life and to live better. They mourn their own weaknesses, they mourn their own sin, and they truly have a hunger to follow the Lord greater. But beware of being apathetic. Beware of spiritual boredom. Beware of getting to a place where you kind of no longer hate that area of sin in your life. I'm not going to fight it anymore. I fought too hard for too long and nothing seems to change, so what difference does it make? And you kind of get lazy about it. Beware of being apathetic. He says, blessed are the merciful, those who show mercy to others, extend mercy to others, but beware of being insensitive and vindictive. There's this thing that's been talked about in kind of medical journals, cultural journals, educational journals for the last several years. We hear about burnout a lot in different, industries and jobs. You have a burnout, right? There's another term that's been going around in medical fields and in ministry jobs and a couple others, healthcare workers, and it's called compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue. Yeah, it's not like burnout, like I'm just going to lay in my bed and I have no physical energy to do my job anymore. Compassion fatigue is more like I can do all my work, I just can't stand people anymore. Some of you are like, you just had a light bulb moment. Like, oh, there's a name for that? Oh yeah, I've been there for a while. I've had that. We can't feel for people anymore. We're done feeling for people. We're done with empathy. We're done with compassion in our world, in our marriage, in our family. We've made everything about us. We've done everything we can to get our way. I can't see the pain that it's causing anyone anymore. I don't really care. Yeah, beware of being insensitive and vindictive. Beware of being the person that anytime you're wronged, you have to seek revenge. You got to tally. This person's wronged me 3 times, so I need 3 revenge actions against them. Yeah, beware of being that person. Blessed are the pure in heart. Not the perfect in heart, the pure in heart. The ones that are honestly and sincerely doing their best to do things the best way that they can. The one who are chasing after purity of intentions. And if I say what I mean and I mean what I say, blessed if that's you. Yeah. But beware of being hypocritical. Beware of being that person that loves pointing out everyone's imperfections and yet you can't focus on your own. You say one thing, but you do something else. Beware of that in your world. Blessed are the peacemakers, right? But beware of being the agitator and the instigator. We know these people. It's people when you know you're going to be getting the other people and you're like, oh, so-and-so's going to be there? Oh, everything's always an argument with them. Everything's always a debate with them. Everything's always a fight with them, right? Or maybe if that's us, it's like, oh, so-and-so's coming? Yes, I'm going to poke on this and 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 just see what happens. Yeah, beware of being that person. Yeah, always have to agitate things. Always have to instigate things. Yeah, blessed are the persecuted, he says. Blessed are the persecuted. Beware of being popular without principles. Beware when you're presented with an opportunity for that raise or that promotion, but it requires you to be less moral than you want to be. Beware in that concept of like the gossip train, but as long as they're not talking about you and they're talking about how bad someone else is, then you can be more popular. Beware of popularity without principles. Blessed are you, Jesus says, when you are insulted or accused or wrong things are said about you because of me. And beware of getting in a place where I'm ashamed of the gospel. Now put that into your world. Not just the macro world, your world. Am I arrogant in my marriage? Am I egocentric and everything is about me and my family? Am I domineering and controlling? Have I become spiritually apathetic? Am I insensitive and vindictive and I've lost compassion for people? I can't feel for them anymore, especially ones that don't agree with me. Have I become hypocritical? Am I the agitator, the instigator? Have I slipped into popularity over principle? Have I become ashamed of this Jesus message? Because this is connected to my ability to be salt and light. Finally, Jesus says this, in the same way, let your light shine before others that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. These are the essential qualities and characteristics of a disciple. And if and when I live them out in my world, I won't do it perfectly. I won't ever do all these things perfectly. But if I'm intentional in actually practicing these things in my world, I will become salt and light. Last time, I swear you'll have to look at this raw piece of meat. Although I'm wondering how many are going to go home and have hamburgers or something. Yeah, so this piece of hamburger, this piece of raw meat is not going against its nature by rotting and decaying. It's doing exactly what its nature is to do. I've never met anyone that said, oh yeah, no, I don't spend any time with my spouse. If I do, we're always doing something else. I'm always looking at something else, distracted by something else, right? We don't communicate. We don't work on communication. We don't date each other. We don't prioritize intimacy. We spend as little emotional connection time as possible. And our marriage has never been better. I've never heard that. I've never heard that. But I have heard people who say, something happened along the way. Yeah, we stopped talking. We got distracted. We stopped working on it. They had their things, I had my things. We didn't date anymore, there's no intimacy. And now my marriage just seems dark. I've heard that. I've never heard any parent say, yeah, truth be told, I don't spend any time with my kids. Can't stand them, don't like them. I spend as much time as I possibly can at work. If I'm not at work, I'm on my computer, I'm on my phone. I increase some of my hobbies. I don't mentor them. I don't teach them. I'm not real with them. I'm definitely not raw with them. I don't open up to them. Zero emotional connection with them whatsoever. And we are the happiest family you'll ever meet. No, I haven't heard that. But I have heard quite a few people communicate some sort of regret. wish I would have spent more time. I wish I had been more intentional. I wish I would have been a little less egocentric. I wish I would have been honest with them and told them about my own struggles when I was their age. I wish I would have been more raw with them. I wish I would have given them a little bit more mercy. I wish I would have met them where they were. I wish I would have been more compassionate or empathetic. I wish I wasn't as controlling and domineering and manipulative with my kids, because there's this void, because they're not around. Something's missing. Our family just feels dark. I'm not sure that if left to its own vices, any marriage is just going to get good on its own. I'm not sure that any family, if just left to its own, without any intentionality, without any pursuit, without any practice of somewhat of these Beatitudes, if I don't focus on it, work on it, and put myself into it, I'm not sure that any family in and of itself is just going to become better. And I'm not sure that the world, in and of itself, is just going to become better. Its natural state is to decay unless I do something about it. Its natural trajectory is to rot unless I do something about it. And so, if I look at the world today, or if I've looked at the world in the last few years, and my response is, it just seems dark. There's a lot of heaviness and a lot of brokenness. There's a lot of emptiness, and it doesn't really seem to lack any sort of order and direction, right? If my mentality is just take me now, just let it all burn. If my thought is, man, there's something wrong with the world. Yeah, there is. Has it been? It's been that way for a while. But that's what it is. It rots. And it decays. Maybe the question isn't whether there's something wrong with the world. Because if we're supposed to be salt and light, and we see a world that's rotting and decaying, maybe the question isn't whether there's something wrong with the world. Maybe the question is whether there's something wrong with us. Yeah. Maybe the question isn't, well, why is the world so bad? Why is the world rotten? Why is the world dark? Why is the world decaying? Because that's what it is. It's been that way for a long time. It's so chaotic. It's so messed up. Yeah, it's been that way for a while. Almost all the way since the beginning. And then God said, let there be light. And so maybe, just maybe, in our own personal lives, in our marriages, in our families, it just seems really, really dark. The world in general just seems really, really dark. God, why don't you just remove something from the story? Why don't you just come and take something away? Maybe, just maybe, in some of these instances, in some of these occasions, maybe instead of taking something out of the story, he put something into the story, and he said, let there be light, let there be you. You are my salt. You are my light. And maybe if I take it from the macro and I bring it into my personal world and I do this, if I do this in my own life, if I'm mourning over my own sin rather than just excusing it, if I deal with those things, and if I live this out in my marriage and I live this out with my family, and we truly intentionally try to be this salt and light in my world, not in the whole world for a moment, but in my little world. And then maybe my family hangs out with your family. And you're trying to do it too, and we learn from each other. Or we come to a place like this, a church, and we realize that we're a community of people who are trying to do this together. Then all of a sudden, me trying to be salt and light in my world becomes salt and light in the world. Do you get it? It multiplies in a way. So that my response is no longer just let it burn, take me now, rapture me up, I'll wait in my lazy boy. Instead, it's you love this world. And rather than wishing it to be destroyed or gone or take me away, maybe there's nothing actually wrong with this world. The world is exactly doing what it has been doing for a long time. Maybe it's time for me to be salt and light. Maybe it's time for me to show up in my marriage. Maybe it's time for me to show up in my family. Would you stand? yeah, there's a lot of hurt and there's a lot of brokenness. There's a lot of pain. And maybe you're in a season of feeling that. Maybe you've tapped into that darkness, that pain where you are right now. You've experienced loss, confusion, the pain, the brokenness. You see, when we individually become salt and light in our own world, and then we enter into a community like this, hopefully we become a place of salt and light for other people who come in and are going through a season of brokenness and hopelessness. And maybe, just maybe, if you're here and your world just seems dark, I hope this is a place that's light to you. I hope you know you belong here. You're seen here. You're valued here. I hope you know that we are anything but perfect, but we'll try to be pure in heart. And we'll try to own our mistakes and talk about them and be raw about life. We try to do it as people and marriages and families. May you know you have a place here. And may the rest of us continue to be salt and light in your home and in your marriage. Take that list home. Find it online. Am I salt and light in my world so I can be the salt and light of the world? Because it's probably not getting better. But maybe I can increase my salt. I can increase my light. We can do it together to preserve as much goodness as possible, to bring as much light as we possibly can. Let's pray. God, I thank you for who you are. I thank you for your word. I pray that anyone here who is having that sense of hopelessness, that despair, that lost in the darkness feeling, would you encounter them? May we be a community of safety and light for people. And may you help us show up in our areas and our worlds so that we can be your salt and your light. I thank you. Take us from this place. We bless you in your name. Amen. Thank you all.